Hi, everybody. It's Thursday. It's Thursday here in the fabulous West Village of Manhattan, and it's starting to rain. Looks like it's very ominous out there. Let's look over the neighborhood. Yeah, they got hard hats on that building over there, and a lot of clouds. So I may have to interrupt the performance to shut the windows, but I got them open now, just so you can get a flavor, and also because it's really stifling in here, unless you want me to run the air conditioner, which also is problematic. I don't know, I'm looking for a happy medium. One thing is, I have sacrificed style for comfort. I'm always willing to do that in terms of performance, optimal performance. So I'm going to play a little music today, which is kind of a tribute to my friend Peter Hamel, who I made a very good album with, I think, called Other Worlds, which came out a few years ago. And I'll say more about that after I play. I think the drops are starting now, but let's see how far we can get here now. Look better. Okay, that's a song on this Otherworld album called The Kid, which has very pithy, to the point lyrics by Peter. And it began as my solo guitar instrumental. I wrote this actually in Clamart, France, when I was, I was artist in residence. I don't know, I was giving workshops at the Henri Dutilleux Conservatoire de la Musique, thanks to my friend David Konopnitsky, David Konop. He's got a very good band called Otorino, recording for Tzaddik Records. And David and I and Yas Boud are working on an EP. We did preliminary tracking up in northern France above Lille, where Yas lives. And anyway, Yas is kind of marooned in Martinique. I could think of worse places to be, actually. Myself, but so he's got to come back to Paris, to France sometime soon, hopefully this summer, to finish this EP. So look to that, probably to come out next year, 2021. It's been a heck of a year for musicians. I direct you to a very good interview with David Crosby, who I always loved and admired, that's in the latest Rolling Stone. where he talks about the devastation on musicians who count often a lot on touring for basic income these days, what with the havoc digitization has wrought to the business model. And I subscribe to that notion, and so that's a plug for visiting the virtual tip jar. Now more than ever at PayPal, I've provided the Addy, my PayPal Addy, at the top of this broadcast, podcast, what's it? I don't know. My little moment musicale here 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Eastern Standard Time. These guys are getting very busy out there bringing all sorts of cement and whatnot up to this building. It's interesting. I got the windows open, as I mentioned, so I'm trying to play along with the sounds around me coming through the windows, and I'll take this moment to, before I go on with my Peter Hamill appreciation, and thank the following people. Michael Lutz, I think he's a multiple-time contributor. Is this a relative of Marina Lutz? I'm not sure, but anyway, lots of Lutz to you. Walter Ivers, maybe this guy is related to the late Peter Ivers. I'm not sure. Loved your tunes and stories. I'll be back. Thanks to the NYT, that stands for New York Times, for the heads up. And that's a reference to this really lovely write-up that Ben Cesario did on Sunday's Arts and Leisure section in the New York Times about my what are these? Solo concerts, apartment concerts, live streams, also now available on YouTube. I've actually encountered people who do not have Facebook, which is like, I don't know how you can avoid it. I do understand the ethics and the fear of data theft myself, and Mark Zuckerberg, you got a lot to account for. But I want to thank him for providing me the privilege to live stream. But anyway, you can circumvent the dreaded Facebook by visiting the dreaded YouTube, where you can see these for free. But anyway, appreciation for any contributions. I got some money in from Little Cowgirl. Hello, Cowgirl in the Sand. Cheers, Gary. I found out you were doing these through the WPKN Facebook. Thank you, WPKN. Listener-supported indie music station in Bridgeport, Connecticut. A nice audio pick-me-up. Well, it's my pleasure. Mark Green. Is this the politician? No, it can't be. But Mark Green, thank you also. Christina Olsevich, who I've known for years on Facebook. You are a doll. Thank you. And then a contribution from Earn Money and Work Online. This is about the 4th time they've sent something. Are they trying to send me a message? I'm not sure. But anyway, while I'm in this mysterious tuning, let's just keep going with it. All right, see. Batten down the hatches because now it's really starting to come down and sprinkle raindrops falling on my head and guitars and notes. And let's go over here and secure this poop hatch. Okay. these lovely French windows that were installed with a big rise in concomitant maintenance costs of this West Village pied de terre. I'm going to switch over now to electric guitar and continue my Hamel rumination here. I wanted to say, Peter Hamel and I became friends going way back to my very first trip to England in 1973, and that was I was playing the lead guitar in Leonard Bernstein's Mass with the Yale Symphony Orchestra. I was a student up there in New Haven, and I saw that they were looking for, I don't know, at least 100 different musicians, singers, dancers, and I went out for the electric guitar chair, and I got it. And that was my first experience being in Europe. They flew us over to play a couple of nights at the Wien Konzerthaus. And actually, there was a production on PBS just a few weeks ago of a new production, relatively new production, that wasn't so bad. I do say that they bowdlerized some of the lyrics, but that's another story. I don't really know why, but I guess sensitivities, to this day and age. Anyway, I took a trip to London after I finished the work in Vienna. Why? Because I was dying to get there, because I was an Anglophile, still am, and I'd never been there. And I wanted to check out the music scene and the cultural scene in general. So I went, and I found I spent a lot of time. I met a guy who was a buyer for HMV, a big HMV store in Oxford Street. And he had a huge display in the window for one of Peter Hamel's solo albums, Chameleon in the Shadow of Night. And so we started talking. I had purchased the first Van de Graaff Generator album the moment I saw it, because I liked the name and I liked the cover of it on Mercury Records. So I was a fan. He said, well, he's playing up in Aylesbury at the Friars Club, which was, as an English rock aficionado, I knew all about the Friars Club. And in fact, I knew Pete Frame, the editor then of Zigzag magazine, who lived in Aylesbury, and invited me to stay with him. I met him when Genesis came to do their first concert in New York, which was held at Radio City. I believe, Radio City. Anyway, they hired a double-decker bus to go about 3 blocks and then disgorge all these writers, including some English writers. They flew in for the occasion. That's another story. Anyway, so I went up to the Friars Club and to hang out with Pete Frame for a couple days in Aylesbury, and Peter gave a great performance solo. And maybe he inspired me too, in a way, because, it's certainly an attractive mode of performance when the budgets aren't there, really, to bring in full bands. And who wants to run a band at a deficit? Not I can assure you. So, in any case, I met him afterwards. I went backstage and introduced myself and got his autograph on a little, one of the programs I used to do with Bill Moseley for our Horror Film Society, Things That Go Bump in the Night. And in fact, Bill posted a photo yesterday on his Facebook feed and on Twitter of the cover of one of the brochures, but actually it was the actual still from Jason and the Argonauts, with Neptune holding open the clashing rocks. Anyway, I could go on about that, but that's another tangent I'm going to not go down right now. So anyway, Peter and I, hit it off. And then years later, I was in London and I saw that there was a reunion going to take place at Royal Festival Hall, and I was tight with the guy who was booking it, an American named Glenn Max. So I wangled a couple of invites, and I took Mike Barnes, or maybe Mike already had a ticket, and Claudia Brücken, my friend from this great German group Propaganda, who should be a lot better known, who made some fantastic sides. And it didn't disappoint. It was an amazing show. And then I don't know, I didn't get into the after party, which was frustrating. But in any case, a couple of years later on Twitter, I saw Peter was on Twitter, and I wrote him, and he remembered me, and I suggested a collaboration, and he wrote back, I think that's a capital idea. So we made plans, and I went up to visit him in Bath, where he lives, right down the road from Peter Gabriel, apparently. And also Ruben Miles Ty used to live there, who's, well, UK agent. And anyway, lovely Bath. So I came up there with a whole trunk full of musical ideas, and I worked with him pretty much like how I worked with Jeff Buckley, and generally speaking, collaborators, vocalists particularly, in that I gave him many finished instrumentals, and he came back with perfect lyrics and melodies, and it took a couple of sessions. The first session, it was just tracking my guitar and him listening really closely, and he very quickly got busy in the studio there. So here's another song from that album that's called Black Ice. It came out of an earlier instrumental of mine called Crack of Doom. And yes, I'm very ecological that way. Nothing goes to waste. Nothing that has any sort of spark of music that appeals to me do I eventually get around to doing something with it now. I'll do a little playing on the steel guitar here. To give you your money's worth, it was suggested that I put these concerts behind a paywall. And in fact, people have been fraudulently offering my performances online, and Facebook I've had to block several of them, saying that I'm going to play, but they want you to surrender your data. And I'm not going there. You know, first of all, I don't want to betray anybody's confidence, or I don't want you to betray your confidential information in my name. And I never agreed to do this, so I get these notifications, sometimes daily. And they're from people all over the world, but people I don't know in Burma and whatnot. So I block them and try and take them down, so beware of imitation Gary Lucas concert sites. You can reliably count on me being here Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 3 p.m. And don't let your free ride, here get the better of yourself, because, you need to support independent music. I will tell you, I never, back in the day, ever did anything with Pirate Bay when that was going, to illegally file share. I just didn't think it was ethical, and, I iTunes for MP3 downloads, and still do once in a while if I want to get music. I know, I'm just not with it with the times, but I have a conscience. And I know how hard it is, really, to self-support yourself. I mean, people are always saying, oh, yes, these tools, you can level the playing field. Well, yes, but the trick is then getting people to throw down money. I know other musicians who brag to me, I have 100,000 followers. And I'm like, well, can you get them all to send you $1, when you play? Not likely. So just saying, it ain't easy, and it's harder than ever now. But I love to play, and I love to play for you, so I'm going to just keep going here, so. Shaking her stirrups, her harness. Hi, Lulu. Walking to and fro in the apartment, and let's go back to the acoustic to finish off here. And I wanted to also thank very much Orlando Palacios of Worth and Worth for this splendid new hat that I'm wearing here in cobalt blue. And Cobalt is also the name of the administrator of my catalog of songs, Gary Lucas Music. And yeah, I have, 350 registered compositions with them. So I was happy to go Cobalt here. My brother-in-law don't want to talk to him. Okay, just Gary Lucas here, keeping it real, trying to. Thanks everybody. I'm supposed to make a long face now, according to what people do on Zoom when they sign off. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm happy, man. I love playing for you guys. Thank you so much for allowing me into your home. I feel so privileged to have you in mine. Stay tuned for Saturday's show, and on next Tuesday, it's the 51st anniversary of Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band's Trout Mask replica, and I'll be doing a whole special tribute to Dom Van Vliet with assorted Beefheartiana, little virtual tour of the apartment. Anyway, I can't wait, and I'll see you there. I'll see you on the flip side. All right. Everybody stay safe. Be cool. Talk soon. Bye.